Welcome everyone to Anote's very first AI Day Summit. My name is Christy, and I'm Anote's product manager and your host for today. We have several attendees online with us today, so we welcome you all, and thank you to those that joined us in New York in person and took the time to make it here. You attending today is moving us one step closer towards our goal of creating a community of folks passionate about AI and products that are revolutionizing our lives and workspace. So today we have a really extremely exciting agenda for you all today, and all of our speakers put a lot of effort into preparing their talks and demos for you today. We have an amazing group of presenters here to share some educational material, such as their recent research and products that they have built within the AI and ML space. After a short 10-minute Q&A break and intermission, we have an amazing lineup of guest speakers who are all founders of some of the latest and greatest AI products. We're super stoked to have them here to speak about their products and the impact it has on people's lives. And with that being said, I'm super excited to now bring to the stage Natan, Vidra, founder and CEO of Anote. Take it away, Natan.
Hello, guys. Thanks so much for joining. We really appreciate you being here. And yeah, thanks for being here. We're really thankful that you guys took the time out of your busy day to kind of join us today. Today, we'll be sharing a bit about Anote, as well as kind of providing an introduction to the AI that works. So a bit about the Anote team. Anote was founded about 1.5 years ago by myself and my co-founder, Tommy Clifford. We've been friends for over 15 years. Tommy's worked at Google as a software engineer, and I worked at Deloitte as a data scientist in their applied AI division. At Deloitte, I worked on a bunch of enterprise AI use cases with clients such as the Navy, DoD, the IRS, the NIH. And all these enterprises, were looking at trying to classify text, extract entities, and answer questions from unstructured text data. Next. Example one is I was working on a project with the Navy. The Navy had millions of these documents from hundreds of these different categories, and they were trying to categorize these documents to actually provide the best classification predictions. And currently, this was really a manual process of going through millions of these documents. This kind of use case transcends industries to finance, where you have companies like Morningstar looking at thousands of financial documents, to healthcare, where you have hospitals and companies like Weill Cornell looking at millions of medical charts. Right now, what's in the market is you have current solutions like UiPath, Verify, Abby, and Impera that can do specific types of documents like invoices, K1s, W9s, or receipts. But if you have really specific or raw unstructured text data that doesn't fit these kind of molds, essentially you have to kind of manually label data by hand to train an AI model. This can be very time-consuming and very iterative. Recently, there were new Gen AI models that came out, such as Claude, GPT, and Bard, that enabled you to actually kind of call these models via API to make very great predictions. The problem is, when it comes to raw unstructured text data, they're not very domain-specific or accurate and hallucinate a lot. As a result, you kind of have companies that are looking to build their own foundation models. Essentially, enterprises want to train models on their own data for domain-specific insights. The problem, this is very costly and requires expertise. So all these folks are looking for solutions to fine-tune or reprompt large language models on your own data for tailored, accurate, and domain-specific results. At Anote, we provide a solution that uses state-of-the-art few-shot learning to make high-quality predictions with a few labeled samples. The way it works is as follows. First, you can kind of go and upload a text-based data set. Next. You can upload unstructured, upload structured. These could be PDFs, documents, or a variety of different file formats. Once you do this, you can customize by adding the categories, entities, or questions you'd care about. These can be things like labeling functions or entities or semi-structured prompts that you might want to find within your text data. After you define your ontology, we have the model do their initial prediction, and we provide the edge cases that the model is most uncertain about. You can annotate a few edge cases, and the model actively learns to predict the rest of your data. And when you're finished annotating, you can actually download the resulting labels to CSV or export the fine-tuned model as an API endpoint. That way you can kind of use the labeled data or the model within your workflows. Essentially, what's nice about this is rather than labeling all the data, you can only look at a few edge cases, and from there, we're able to kind of provide more accurate and domain-specific results. Actually, since we've kind of started with this, we've expanded to a lot of different product lines. We've labeled text data. We've also built your own private financial chatbot where you can chat with documents and LLMs while keeping your data private and secure. And we also have a model inference product where you can make predictions via API to run fine-tune LLMs locally. And all these kind of products are kind of combined into a suite of Anote solutions. Essentially, there's a lot of things that make this different. One item is kind of the active learning capabilities that we have, where we can actually do this new thing called human-centric AI to actually have the model adjust based on the data. We also have, comprehensive capabilities. So we actually have a really great documentation where we've open sourced a bunch of the content. I'll just kind of put it in the chat, where you can kind of read more about some of the stuff we do. And I guess the third thing, we kind of do is we have private solutions that can be very helpful. If you want to run your data on-prem. Next. Essentially, why this matters is essentially in the data labeling space, before using a solution like us, you'd have to go through and manually label data yourself in a spreadsheet, which could be tedious, time-consuming, and costly. But now with this kind of new approach, you can use few-shot learning to make really high-quality, accurate predictions with just a few interventions. Similarly, in the document processing space, if you wanted to ask questions on documents, right now, traditional RAG-based models might get a lot of items wrong. But with fine-tuning, you can actually go from 10 questions right to 15 questions right to 20 questions right with a few interventions, enabling insights that were otherwise impossible to obtain with zero-shot models. And yeah, right now we're at kind of 50K in revenue. We've done 15 different pilot projects or organizations like Harvard Med and Weill Cornell across industries such as finance, ad tech, maritime, legal tech, and we've labeled a bunch of data. But really, this is all about the present. We're talking about the future now, and we're trying to think of how we can make this kind of technology accessible to everyone. Hence, the idea behind AI Day. AI Day, the goal of AI Day is to build an AI community and help make artificial intelligence more accessible. So what does that mean? Right now, there's this real gap between the incredible potential of what AI can do and the actual, use cases that people are kind of tackling today. Right now, today, still people will go through hundreds of documents and manually sift things, label tons of text data manually, write thousands of emails that, you can use AI to actually provide real practical benefit. Similarly, you kind of have these AI experts that are actually going really fast and making a ton of advancements in AI. But the problem is a lot of folks are just being left behind. So we kind of need a community to kind of take everyone's opinion into account, ways that we can kind of all talk about AI, learn about AI, learn about how LLMs work. That way we can kind of incorporate everyone's opinion and diversity into essentially making the best AI for everyone in the most beneficial and positive ways. And that's really the next step in the future for Anote. And to do this at first, we've been lucky to kind of partner with a lot of great organizations such as Breakthrough Tech that have kind of enabled us to kind of get a really great team. And we also want to kind of build this community via Slack channel where all of us will have real conversations about artificial intelligence, generative AI, LLMs, and how this kind of technology works. So if you join the Slack channel, the goal of this call is to kind of meet other people, network, learn a bit about AI, and then from there kind of come together to help us and the team figure out how we can use this technology for good. We're really lucky to kind of have a rock star team of folks that have kind of all aligned in this vision of building accessible AI for everyone. This kind of starts with the team of Breakthrough Tech folks that will kind of be giving talks on the private GPT and model inference products today, as well as Christy, Rajat, Sakshi, and my good co-founder, Katami, who I'm very thankful to work with. Thank you. We also have guest speakers that are also part of this kind of AI community in New York. So we have Amrutha, Brendon, Stephen, Hamza, Naheul, and Faraz from startups such as Promptlayer, Athena Intelligence, and OpenAds, who also believe in kind of this vision of AI accessibility and making, their work accessible to kind of folks in the community. So we're very thankful that, they're coming to speak today in the second kind of part of the session.
Next up, we have Sakshi here to speak for us today. Sakshi is Anote and Private GPT's product manager and is currently a graduate student at Cornell Tech. Sakshi is also a strategy consultant at Accenture, and today Sakshi will be sharing information on how to effectively build your own private GPT. We welcome to the stage Sakshi. So give me 1 second.
Thanks, Christy. So, hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. So let's start with discussing about one of the critical challenges that the financial enterprises right now are facing. And it is about harnessing the analytical power of generative AI without actually compromising on the data confidentiality. So these organizations, as we all know, they have a wealth of sensitive information that they simply cannot share off premises. And the traditional cloud-based large language models, like ChatGPT, they present a concern on data privacy. So the real question is, how do you benefit from their capabilities while ensuring that your sensitive data, it actually remains within the confines of your security protocols? And this is what we are going to be discussing here today. Thank you. So let me introduce you to our solution, which will empower you to chat with your financial documents. And this will be completely private and in a secured manner. So here's how it works. You firstly start by uploading your documents into a local data silo, ensuring that they never leave your premises. Once it is uploaded, you can engage with your data by asking questions directly to the system. And the answers that you will receive is, of course, the output of the advanced analytics. And it will serve up as if you were conversing with the expert sitting right there in your office. So can you move to the next slide? Oh, I'm sorry, the previous one. Yes. So in our third slide, let's take a closer look at the privacy mechanisms of our solution, right? So here we are actually talking about a concrete architecture, which is designed to safeguard your data. Once your documents are uploaded, they are stored locally in a MySQL vector database, which is renowned for its robust security as well as efficient retrieval capabilities. To analyze your data, we use large language models like GPT-4All and Llama 2, which are configured to run directly on your local machines. This setup ensures that sensitive information is processed in a closed-loop system without any of your data being shared or transmitted outside of your controlled environment. And of course, an integral part of this whole system is the use of FAS, which stands for Facebook AI Similarity Search. FAS is utilized to create high-dimensional vector embeddings of your data, which facilitates speedy and accurate retrieval for your queries. And this overall system, it ensures that the insights that you gain from the generative AI are derived securely, respecting the confidentiality and, of course, the integrity of your financial data at every turn. Can you move to the next slide? Thank you. Okay, all right. So now let's discuss about the actual value add of our product. So first and foremost, it ensures that your data remains secure. This isn't just about keeping your data private. It's also about maintaining full control as well as compliance with industry regulations. Second, accuracy. Accuracy is important, and you have the flexibility to choose from a variety of large language models, including GPT-4All and Llama 2 from our system. And you can also bring in a new model that you have fine-tuned to meet your unique needs. This means that the insights and the answers you receive are not only based on the state-of-the-art AI, but are also highly relevant to your specific data context. Beyond privacy and accuracy, our system is totally designed to enhance your existing workflows. We understand that the financial document handling can be complex, and so we have made it possible for you to create custom workflows that seamlessly fit into your operations, whether it's generating, analyzing, or downloading financial reports. Our solution optimizes these processes for speed as well as efficiency. And lastly, let's not overlook the integration capabilities of our system. It's designed to work smoothly with your current infrastructure, which will ensure that the implementation is as smooth as possible. And you can start getting the benefits of private GPT without any delay. Can we move to the next slide? Okay. This actually defines the business model of this product. I'll keep the slide for a second, and then, of course, we are happy to take on any questions and queries regarding. All right. Moving on to the GTM strategy. So our go-to-market strategy is primarily targeted at the data teams within finance companies, particularly those dealing with crucial documents such as 10Ks, 10Qs, annual reports, and earning call transcripts. We are looking at mid-sized financial companies and consulting firms who are eager to apply generative AI to their data, but actually unsure where to start. Moreover, leading financial data providers like Morningstar, S&P Global, Bloomberg, and BlackRock are on our target list for sure. As these companies actually they seek innovative AI solutions to extract information from the unstructured documents, they do this because this actually helps them to enrich their data products and financial reports. So they're definitely on our target list for sure. And lastly, hedge funds, which actually depend on a myriad of text sources for their critical stock and options trading decisions. We believe that they stand to benefit immensely from our secure in-house AI analytics. So this actually defines the overall, the introduction of the private GPT product that we wanted to talk about today. Now I'll be moving on. I'll be handing it over to Christy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sakshi, for the informative talk about Finance GPT. Next up, we have Eden here to present next. Eden Chung is a computer science student at Columbia University interested in the applications of AI and ML. Eden has done work in full stack development, mainly in Python and JavaScript plus React. Eden will be presenting and showcasing a product demo about importing fine-tuned models into your chat, getting more accurate answers to your questions, and seeing relevant citations for these answers to mitigate the effects of LLM hallucinations. With that being said, let's all give Eden a warm welcome to the stage.
Hey, thank you, Christy. So yeah, as I mentioned, I'll be talking about Anote's product, Private GPT, which is a product we've been working on for the past few months. So I'm very excited to launch that today. So the goal of this is to create an AI-powered chatbot that is able to answer questions from all types of documents, but specifically financial documents with more accuracy than a generalized LLM like ChatGPT. In addition, we offer a private option, which makes us very different to other models. So why exactly is this important? First of all, it helps us reduce the time and effort that human analysts have to spend manually annotating and extracting information. So oftentimes, these financial documents are 200 to 300 pages long, and often we only want a small section of the text. So using this product greatly reduces the time that it takes to, go through all of these long financial documents. We also create an AI-powered chatbot that is, as I said, specific to the financial industry. So it was trained upon specific finance data rather than just a generalized large language model. Lastly, we fine-tuned this ML model and also fed in additional context, which helps reduce the possibility of hallucinations and optimizes the accuracy of our model. So our product has 3 current task types that users can execute. The first one is uploading documents. So this is when users just have any kinds of documents on their computer, and you can search through the library of all of the documents you have and upload one or more. This could be PDF, docx, CSV, TXT, any document type that you can think of pretty much. So once you upload it, we will then process it in the backend, and you can then query questions. Next is pretty similar, but instead of having to have the document on your computer, you instead can just enter the company ticker, so such as AAPL or MSFT, and from there, we'll just query the SEC's API, and we'll collect the financial document for you This could be a 10K, an annual report, or a quarterly report, a 10Q. And from there, you can do the same thing and query questions and get answers from the text. Last, you can create your MySQL database. So a user can upload their own database, and then you can ask the chatbot questions based off of it. So you can ask it a question in English and natural language, and behind the scenes, we'll convert that to a SQL query. So a simple example might be like, how many rows are in my table? And we'll then return an answer to you in English. So differentiators. What exactly makes private GPT different to other products out there? First of all, one of our main differentiators is allowing you to pick different models. So as I mentioned, we offer both a public option and a private option. And within public, we offer OpenAI, so GPT, and also Claude. And on the private end, we offer Llama and GPT for all. So this allows you to use our product for many different use cases. So for example, if you're more concerned about the privacy of your data, you can use one of our private models. But if you're more concerned about speed and don't really have, documents that have to be kept private, you can instead use one of our public models. And all of this is within the same platform, so it's very user-friendly. Second of all, you can utilize fine-tuned models specific to a task. So we have the finance-specific fine-tuned model, but we also have the option where you can enter your own fine-tuned model if you have one. So let's say you've fine-tuned your own model for the healthcare industry or the law industry. You can then enter that and use our product. We also retain the chat history across multiple sessions. So when you use our product, you either create an account with us or you can log in through Gmail. And we'll keep all of your chat history in case you want to go back to it later, or if you want to add additional documents or refer back to information that we've given before. Lastly, what's also very important is we display citations word for word from the documents where the answer is located. So this is especially important with large language models because they hallucinate so much, which is an issue that is still pretty prevalent. Displaying the citations ensures that you can see where the model actually got its answer from. And you can also get additional context from before or after in the text if you care about that. So now I'll do a short demo of the product. Okay, so once you're on the private GPT website, this is what you see. So you have the different options here and you have your chat. So I'll start with doing a 10K Edgar. So this is using the SEC's website. So I can enter in a company's ticker. So for example, Microsoft. I'll then click enter. It'll take some time to process a document. And once the document is processed, we can then see it here on under the uploaded files. So we can also, so that's the first option. Then the second option is to upload files. So I'm going to upload 2 files from some research papers that Anote has created. So you upload them again here, they'll be here. You can delete your documents, you can edit them. And as I mentioned, we have our private version that you can purchase here. And you can change the model from OpenAI to Claude. So these are our 2 public models, and the private models will be on the desktop version. And you can enter your own fine-tuned model here. Let's say you have your own fine-tuned model. You can then utilize that instead of just the unfine-tuned OpenAI version. So for example, I can ask some questions based on these 2 documents. I can say, what is few-shot learning? So I can ask that question. It'll take a bit of time to get an answer. And then once we have our answer, you can then click the I. That will show you where exactly in the text it got it from, as well as the sources. So here you can see word for word from the text. So as we can see, it says few-shot learning is a technique that allows a model, blah, 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 which is similar to the answer that it was given. We could also ask what were the data sets used in this paper. does take a bit of time to load. There we can see that we used a bunch of various data sets, and finally you can say like who wrote the paper on improving classification performance. So it gives us the authors of the paper. And again, you can always click the I to make sure that this answer is correct. Then you can do something similar for the 10K Edgar, as I mentioned. So I could say, what does this company do? And in the back end, it's retrieving this document from the government's website. And then it's chunking it and processing it. So it does take a bit of time, but here we get a long answer saying that they're in gaming and entertainment, they compete in search and news. And again, when we click the I, we can see that, it seems pretty accurate. It says our search and news advertising business competes with Google. So yeah, that concludes the demo. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eden, for that amazing product demo. Super cool. If you guys have any questions for Eden, please feel free to drop in the chat. I see that
You want to go inside?
couple of us have there's some questions in the chat that Natan will be answering during our Q&A. So thank you for your patience and for keeping those coming. Next up, we have Liang here with us today. Liang is a mathematics major with a minor in communication at Baruch University and is currently studying machine learning with a focus on NLP and reinforcement learning. Liang has worked on projects involving the implementation and reinforcement learning algorithms and NLP. Liang has been part of the development of a research paper demonstrating how we can improve text classification performance with human feedback. And with that being said, Liang, whenever you're ready.
Hi, nice to meet you guys. Yes. So just like these large language model like BERT, Setty, and Claude, they essentially are transformers, and they are pre-trained on various data sets like math, history, etc. Because of them being pre-trained on various data sets, they tend to hallucinate if they see some new unseen data. Fast forward to 2021 to now, there are new techniques, or you also can call them like machine learning paradigms, that can increase the accuracy of these large language model, like few-shot learning and active learning. And currently we have like RAG, which is stand for retrieval augmented generation. Yes, our goal is to utilize these few-shot learning and fine-tuning and active learning with human feedback to boost the accuracy of these large language models. So specifically, for my research would be text classification. Why text classifications? Most data in our world are essentially text, right? And text data are the mostly highly unstructured out there. Why is that? Simply because there's missing rows, grammar, mislabel, etc. So throughout the research, I benchmarked on two of these data sets, which are the Amazon review data sets and the finance data sets, which consist of class label like excellent, very good, neutral, good, and bad. That's corresponding to a certain customer's review. And for finance data sets will be positive, negative, neutral, which correspond to like how the market is actually going, what's going on with the market. So with active learning, we initially use these zero-shot models, which is a fancy way of saying like models like ChatGPT, Claude, BERT, and Setty that are pre-trained on various domains. And because they train on various domains, they are not really accurate, or they are not designed for text classifications. So what can we do? So by fine-tune, by incorporating active learning through human feedback, the model's performance can get better iteratively. So as you see in the image on the left, the zero-shot model predict on row 2, like dear customer, your account balance is not spam, but the actual answer is actually spam. But by providing feedback to the first row of the data to not spam, as you see on the right, the predictions adjust from not spam to spam. So a second solution for these low accuracy zero-shot model is fine-tuning the model through human feedback. So if you call the API key for like ChatGPT, for example, and you ask questions like, is the market is up today? Can you tell me if it's positive, negative, neutral? Often it answers it incorrectly. Well, it can answer correctly, but it has that additional explanation to it. When you have that additional explanation to it, it's extremely hard for data scientists to calculate its accuracy. So a solution is that you can fine-tune it, 10 rows of data with a corresponding answer and desired format. Iteratively, over time, the model's accuracy will improve. So few-shot learning. Like previously, Natan mentions that because these large language model hallucinates and it's pre-trained on various data sets, these traditional machine learning models tend to fail because of that, because most data in the world are extremely unstructured. And a third solution we could use is using something called few-shot learning. Is essentially you provide some sort of example to these large language models, and you do that iteratively to produce high accuracy. So without human feedback, you're not making any modifications to the models itself. Because of that, the accuracy is essentially horizontal. But with human feedback, you're essentially baking weights. You could bake weights through fine tuning, and because you're changing the model's weights, you can see there's some modifications to the models, and because of that, you can see an increase in accuracy. I should provide more examples. So, as you see, for my research, if I increment feedback to the model incrementally 10 at a time, as I did that to 150, you can see the model's accuracy in terms of accuracy, precision, and recall increases. So why is this important? Because in healthcare and finance, it's extremely hard for a normal person to understand, for example, finance data, right? And similarly apply to healthcare. So an industry expert should be the one that's providing feedback to these large language models. So in summary, large language model in 2024 and further on will continue to get better. But they are not going to be good in itself for one specific applications. So in order for them to be really good for certain thing, or for this example, it would be text classifications, we had to leverage some sort of fine-tuning, active learning, few-shot learning, or what Ethan mentioned, retrieval augmented generation to enhance the model's accuracy so that the model don't hallucinate.
Thank you, Liang, so much for presenting and showcasing all of your learnings. Liang's research paper, along with other breakthrough tech people, will be shared later on for all of you guys to access and view. Next up, we have Katherine. Katherine Jijo is a computer science major with a concentration in artificial intelligence at Hofstra University. Katherine is interested in NLP and the applications of AI and ML within finance. Katherine will be talking about the benchmarking research our team has done to evaluate model accuracy on financial datasets. Let's give Katherine a warm welcome to the stage. Take it away, Katherine.
Hi, everyone. So over the last month, my team and I worked on benchmarking question and answering models, and this is what we've learned so far. So currently, financial analysts are spending hours trying to go through tens of hundreds of long pages of financial documents to be able to make informed investment decisions, develop financial strategies, and conduct due diligence. And we see large language models as a way to automate the labor-intensive aspects of these financial analysts' tasks due to large language model capabilities in natural language understanding, reasoning, and writing. So benchmarking is important because it allows us to understand where the model exactly hallucinates and where it starts making up answers. And that allows us to highlight the importance of reliability assessments within financial question and answering. So we tested 4 models, 2 publicly run and 2 private. So our public models were GPT 3.5 and Claude, and our private models were Llama 2 and GPT for All. And we found out that these models zero shot have a good baseline at general chatting tasks. However, they perform poorly on high level reasoning and logical tasks due to the fact that they tend to hallucinate. So to test and benchmark our data, we started off with Finance Bench, which is a data set created by Patronus AI. And we want to simulate as much as possible a private GPT-like environment. So this data set was great for our use, particularly because it has the 10,000 question and answer pairs that are about documents that you would typically enter into our private GPT. So the data set was made up of 10Ks, 10Qs, 8Ks, earning reports, and earning call transcripts. And this data set spanned to test large language model capabilities within finance. So for numerical reasoning, information retrieval, logical reasoning, and world knowledge. And our next data set was Retrieval Augmented Generation Instruct Benchmark Tester, which was designed for professional and legal and financial industries for evaluating RAG technology within enterprise use cases. So to test the RAG abilities, we have context passages from common retrieval scenarios such as financial news, earnings releases, contracts, invoices, technical articles, and more. And this benchmark spans to test LLM capabilities within financial table readings, deep math equations, Boolean principles, and the followings. So for our benchmarking Q&A process, we looked at 2 parts. We looked at the answer the model provides, as well as the chunk in which the document the answer was taken from. And that's to be able to ensure reliability within the answer. So there's no standard evaluation methods for evaluating large language models, but we employed 3. So for cosine similarity, it measures the cosine angle between vectors representing model generated and the reference text from the documents. Rogue L score, which measures the overlap between the longest common subsequences between a model's output and reference, and human evaluation, which is a subjective score, but it does capture fluency, coherency, and informativeness. And between these 3 evaluation methods, there is a trade-off between reliability and scalability. So for human evaluation, we are allowed to have more nuanced insights. However, it is resource intensive. And cosine similarity and rogue doesn't allow us to get the same depth that human judgment would. And then in terms of scalability, cosine similarity and rogue allow for large-scale evaluations, whereas human evaluation is a constraint on resources and time. And then in terms of model evaluation through our benchmarking, we found that zero-shot models perform poorly on Q&A tasks, and this is where Anote comes in and offers a solution of using fine-tuned large language models. And our fine-tuned large language models showed higher accuracy within scores like Rogue L and cosine similarity. So within our fine-tuning process, we had to ask ourselves, how can we make these zero-shot models better? Zero-shot models currently show a struggle within qualitative and quantitative analyses. So in terms of quantitative analyses, the model could return a string like the revenue was 23.7 billion, whereas the revenue was actually 2.37 billion. And the problem with this is the model would rank these with a similar cosine similarity score and Rogel score, but they do have vastly different connotations. In terms of a financial aspect, the model returned a false statement that increased the company's revenue tenfold, and that would give us an incorrect view of the company. And in terms of qualitative analyses, the model would return a string such as the company's performance was impressive. Impressive is subjective, and we can't make definite financial decisions off of that. So in tune with fine tuning, we're able to make these answers better. So to make these models better, we can employ things like prompt engineering or reprompting, retrieval augmented generation, as well as fine tuning. I'm going to briefly explain fine tuning, but the next presentation will go more in depth. So why should we fine tune our models? Fine tuning allows for more consistent outputs, as well as users to customize their models for specific use cases. It reduces hallucinations and eliminates the need of training models from scratch. So just to mention the methods of fine tuning that you can employ on your models, such as self-supervised fine tuning, supervised learning, and reinforcement learning with human feedback, which you'll hear more about in the next presentation. But to conclude, we learned that zero-shot models perform poorly in Q&A tasks, but by employing methods like fine tuning, we're able to improve the accuracy and gear them towards our specific use cases. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katherine, for that amazing presentation. Last but not least, we have Spurthi here to talk for us today. Spurthi is an engineering student at Stevens Institute of Technology and is interested in LLMs, generative AI, and their applications towards finance. Today, Spurthi will be covering parameter-efficient fine-tuning, LoRa, CLoRa, reinforcement learning with human feedback, prompt engineering, and FLAIR. Let's all welcome to the stage, Spurthi. Ready whenever you are, Spurthi.
Thanks, Christy, for that introduction. So hi, everyone. Today, my talk is going to be more about the technical side of how we actually go into fine-tuning these large language models. So picking up for where Katherine left off of why exactly we should go about this process. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the Gen AI models that are already on the market, like ChatGPT. They kind of have are really good at more like general tasks. It's pretty cool. You can have a conversation with a computer, but they kind of fall short when you want them to perform really well on a specific use case. And that's where fine-tuning comes in. If we want these sorts of models to have very consistent outputs based on these use cases. So kind of on the image on the right, you could see that during the pre-training process, a large language model is just fed in a large corpus of text data, but not really given specific instructions. So it's just statistically predicting what's the most next likely word or token. And maybe through its text data, that data, when you ask it, hi, what is your first name? It thinks the most likely response is, what is your last name? But that doesn't really make sense when you're talking to a person. So maybe after you fine tune it for a chatbot specific application, after when you ask it, hi, what is your first name? It knows to respond with something, my first name is blank. And going into more of the benefits of fine-tuning, it's also really good for reducing hallucination, because now the model won't necessarily have to make up that it knows this information when it doesn't, because you'll be given a domain-specific data set throughout the fine-tuning process. And it allows us to kind of get similar results for of a model performing good for a specific use case without having to train a model completely from scratch, which is a very computationally expensive process. And this is going more into the architecture of how fine-tuning actually happens. So as I mentioned, first, the large language model goes through this process called pre-training, where it is fed a huge amount of unstructured text data. So you can think, for example, GPT was basically trained on the entire internet. And the large language model here is not really given any sort of instructions. This is really familiar with the format of the language, and it's trying to teach it how to speak coherently in a sense, but it doesn't have specific knowledge or trained to do anything in a certain way. And after we have this pre-trained large language model who just kind of has no knowledge, but how to speak in a way that makes sense, we can then go through the fine-tuning process via a very domain-specific data set. And this domain-specific data set is generally a lot smaller, higher quality, and more specialized than maybe the massive data set, which is usually just a large corpus of unstructured data. So once we go through the fine-tuning process, which I'll talk more about, we're going to end up with this fine-tuned large language model that'll have higher quality outputs for a specific case that the user can directly interact with via queries. Now, these are the three main fine-tuning methods, and they're kind of similar to traditional machine learning methods. So first is like self-supervised learning, which you can kind of thing to unsupervised learning. And in this type of fine-tuning, we don't have structured data in terms of inputs and outputs. It's actually going to be more so like unstructured data, but that can be very domain specific unstructured data. So for example, if you're trying to like legal or like a financial chatbot, maybe you'll just feed in additional documents of like, of the cases or like finance documents just for the model to get more familiar with the language. But then again, you're not specifying it like, oh, for this input, it should be this output. That's where supervised fine-tuning comes in. And that's what I'm going to mostly talk about during this presentation. And that's where you have paired inputs and outputs, which kind of correspond to the input being, the user's query plus any additional context or input, and the output being what the expected model response should be. And then you can improve it further through reinforcement learning. And this is kind of like, in addition to like, even after you fine tune, the model's kind of actively learning via human feedback. Now, for supervised fine-tuning specifically, there's a very specific data creation process to go through. And Katherine mentioned the 4 models we fine-tune, the closed LLMs being GPT and Claude, but open source ones being like GPT for all and Llama 2. But each large language model requires it to be in a very specific format to fine-tune it that, you can find in its docs or information about that large language model. Usually it'll be in some sort of like JSON or JSON-L format where you have to specify maybe the role of what the model should be, and then also maybe specific tags that tell the model to perform in a certain way. And like any other machine learning model, high quality data is essential if you want high quality performance, because when you fine tune, the whole goal is to get more consistent outputs to be like the fine tuning data. If you want your model to have a high performance, you need to have high quality data. And the pre-processing techniques is very similar to maybe other natural language processing tasks where you need to tokenize them, which is basically chunking the data into smaller sections, like a word or two, and then creating embeddings, which are just numerical representations of the text. And we can also incorporate prompt engineering via the dataset creation for the fine-tuning, where maybe we can concatenate the inputs in a specific way that's saying, you are a financial chatbot that acts in this way, use this input, this is your question, use this input to answer the questions. And that would kind of all be incorporated in the training data for fine-tuning. Now, this is going more in specific about how we fine-tune via a process called parameter fine-tuning. So you've probably kind of heard people talking about these things called parameters when talking about large language model, GPT being something like 175 billion parameter model. And generally is the more parameters it is, the more complex and the higher performing model it'll be. So because these large language models are so complex, they often have billions of parameters. And when you fine tune it, you're actually updating and changing those parameters and the weights of those parameters to make it optimal for that specific use case. And there's 3 kind of buckets that this method falls into. So you can do full fine tuning, which is basically like we take all the parameters, all the weights of like that base LLM, how many ever billion of them, and through the fine tuning process, you update every single one. And that could lead to really good results, but as you can imagine, it'll be extremely computationally expensive because you're updating billions of parameters and runs the risk of maybe the original model will have some catastrophic forgetting. Now you can get better than that through something called transfer learning, where you're not updating every single model weight, but you're freezing all the parameters except the model head. And the model head is something, it's basically the last layer of the neural network that translates directly to the output layer. So that's, you can kind of think of that one as the most important one. And we're only going to update the parameters for that one. But we can get even better than this through a process called parameter efficient fine-tuning, PEFT, where actually in the base pre-trained LLM, we are going to fix all those weights and augment additional weights, and only those augmented weights are what we're going to change and update via the fine-tuning process. And as you can imagine, since we're not updating any of the original weights, it's a lot less computationally expensive to do so, but you can kind of achieve very similar results. And this is kind of a graphic to explain that further. So on the left, you can see in conventional fine tuning, all the original model parameters are updated, which can be pretty expensive. However, on the right with PEFT, we can augment additional weights and then only fine tune those, which is significantly less computationally expensive. Now, kind of going further in how we can further optimize the fine-tuning process is through a process called low-rank adaptation, or LoRA, which is something that some researchers at Microsoft came out with a few years ago, and it's kind of been widely adapted across the community. And this is a way that from PEFT, we can further reduce how many parameters we need to train through the use of low-rank matrices. So basically what that means, if you kind of take an example, right, of like weights are stored in these matrices, and if you have like a 10 by 10 matrix, you would need to update all like 100 weights in those. But LoRA reduces how many you need to update through storing them in a low rank matrix. So, and the product of them. So instead of a 10 by 10 matrix, you'll have the product of a 10 by 1 matrix and a 1 by 10 matrix, and that one kind of being a rank, which is a very low number. Now, instead of updating 100 weights, you only need to update 20. And, you know, that's kind of a very small number, but you can imagine when it scales to thousands or like billions of parameters, it could save you a lot of time. And it also reduces the risk of overfitting because you're updating less weights and via these low rank matrices and only updating the most crucial ones. And as you can imagine, because we're significantly reducing the number of weights and parameters we have to update, it is even less computationally expensive, and you need significantly less memory requirements as well as the GPU required to do this process. Now, we can get even better than LoRA through something called QLoRA, which is basically, it's doing the same thing that LoRA does, but for a quantized large language model. So quantized LLMs just mean a large language model that has gone through the process of quantization, which just means that for each of those tensors in the model, we're going to reduce the precision to make it a lot more compact. So usually these methods will reduce something like a 16-bit number to a 4-bit precision number. You can kind of like, you know, see the analogy of like on this image, you know, if it's to 2 decimal places, it'll reduce the precision to just like an integer. And maybe it'll make the model a little less, you know, accurate, but it'll make it a lot more compact, so it takes up significantly less memory, and you can do LoRA on that to get very comparable results. And this has further really democratized the process of fine-tuning as reducing the, you know, computational requirements, that is, to make the process a lot more accessible. And kind of going more into the research we did and how we fine-tune and the results from that. So we took Llama 2, which is an open source model. We specifically fine-tuned the 7 billion parameter one. And originally, with just a simple RAG pipeline without fine-tuning, our model was not able to perform very well. When asked a question, it did not find the answer in the given text. But after we fine-tune it, this is specifically with the finance bench data, it was able to come to the correct answer. And I also want to talk about the aspect of retrieval for fine tuning, because we're specifically working on document-based question answering, right? So a lot of the times the model itself won't have all the knowledge, but it'll have to get it from additional sources. And this is a graphic here that kind of explains how a traditional RAG pipeline works. So RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. So the user may ask a question. Using that question, it'll retrieve the most relevant docs, and then it'll kind of give those docs into the base model for it to generate a response. But there's kind of more issues with this when you go into like more complicated, like for example, financial documents, where maybe something that is the most similar is not exactly the most relevant. So we also looked into ways, how can we actually improve the retrieval? Because what's the point in having this model that's really good at answering questions based off of a given context if you're not able to give it the correct context in the first part? So one way to do that is through query expansion, and we did a method of this in our research called FLAIR, forward-looking active retrieval. Maybe you ask the LLM for a hypothetical answer, and then use both of those to find the relevant chunks. You can also employ prompt engineering in terms of like how it retrieves the context and uses the context in the answer. After it's retrieved the chunks, and maybe they're kind of rank them initially based on like cosine similarity, but maybe that's not actually where the answer is. You can employ a re-ranking algorithm that sorts it more based on relevance rather than just similarity. You can play around with the chunking parameters, how big each section you want it to be, and maybe more dynamic so that each chunk is not the same size. And we can also do things like metadata filtering, where we annotate each chunk with additional data that maybe have like the time, if you only want to get the most recent results, or like if it's like a larger data set, things like company, topic, other informations, to really get a more advanced retrieval architecture. And in order to build really robust and high quality AI systems, it's not really one or the other. You'll sometimes hear people say, oh, should you use prompt engineering or RAG or fine tuning? But really, you can use all these methods in conjunction with each other, and you should be using them all together in order to get the best results. And I'm kind of going into how we can do this. So as I explained with the fine tuning process, we actually do use RAG and prompt engineering. When I create my data set, I'm actually creating a prompt template that, for example, that says you are a financial chatbot that can only answer questions based on the given context, like do not hallucinate information, which prevents it from making up information. And that's a version of prompt engineering. And we also use RAG as like the fine-tuning data has, in addition to the query, it has an input of the context of where the information is located, because we want it to improve the retrieval too. And even after we fine-tune and got that optimal fine-tuned model, we should still be employing these techniques of like asking prompt engineering, maybe asking it a way that's similar to the training data, so you can get the outputs that you expect. And we should actively be using RAG so our model can constantly be up to date with the information it should answer questions off of. And as kind of a future step, we can also implement other things like reinforcement learning to further improve the performance. And these are kind of just next steps of how we want to further improve our models, like, in the fine-tuning process and like past it at Anote. So one way is via hyperparameter tuning. So this is kind of different than updating the model parameters. That's actually changing like the weights. Hyperparameter tuning involves things like maybe you want to change like the chunk size of the retrieval, or you want to change the learning rate when you're actually fine-tuning the model, or like number of epochs, like the things like those sort of hyperparameters. Maybe we can play around with and see what's the optimal one. We really wanted to see if we can incorporate more active learning via reinforcement learning through actually having a reward algorithm that responds to human feedback, in addition to just doing supervised fine-tuning via a human curated data set. And I did talk about those I kind of touched upon a lot of the methods to enhance retrieval, but we implemented something called FLAIR, but we're also definitely want to kind of implement and look into the performance of some of those other methods I had mentioned, to see how we can really ensure that we're getting the most relevant and correct context that gets the answer. And finally, a lot of the methods I mentioned, like, PEF, LoRa, and QLoRa, a lot of great research and work has been done to make these fine-tuning a lot more efficient and accessible, but there's still room to do a lot more, right? Like, even when you fine-tune, even when you're doing things like LoRa and QLoRa, you need a good amount of GPUs to like get it really efficient. So we're like looking for like things of how can we get it, both model inference and the fine-tuning training process, to be even more efficient and faster. And with that, I think that kind of concludes my talk about more of the technical side of fine-tuning LLMs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Spurthi, for that amazing, amazing talk. I want to give a huge round of applause to all the breakthrough tech presenters today. They spent a lot of effort trying to put these slides and talks together for all of you. With that being said, I would like to transition to a live Q&A. Natan, are you here with us? Let's give him a second to...
Yeah, we're here.
Hi, Natan. So we have a couple questions filtering in from the chat. We're also going to open up the floor for anyone who wants to ask questions live. So feel free to unmute yourself if you have any questions. And yeah, Anote team, take it away. We have a couple in the live from Caleb, if we want to start off with those.
Yeah, so I think, Caleb, thanks for these great questions. And I'd say for the folks downstairs, feel free to like kind of take a 10-minute break to just kind of network and get to know each other, eat some food and enjoy. So yeah, have fun. For private GPT, what makes private GPT unique is that you can run it locally on your own private enterprise data. So this can kind of work on a local kind of computer with like a Mac M1, as well as, on like Windows OS. The way we kind of do this is we use like an Electron-based desktop app that runs Flask backend and uses SQLite, for your local DB storage. It's really computer agnostic because it just runs locally and the data is stored in your like SQL database, right? But you can do things to optimize the performance of the model. So for instance, in Spurthi's presentation, she mentioned a lot about like fine-tuning models. So one thing we're actually looking into now is like, how do we kind of input like a fine-tuned Llama 2 into, this kind of private GPT product? And there are kind of trade-offs with like the computer architecture in terms of speed and efficiency. And I guess Katherine, Spurthi, you guys want to talk a bit about like some of the work you guys did with benchmarking like local models like GPT-4, Llama 2, and some like the trade-offs,
Yeah, I can talk more about that. So I did a lot of work with like Llama 2, and I don't have a GPU on my computer. So, and I was able to fine tune it using the methods I like talked about in my presentation. It's definitely going to be like faster if you do have a GPU. I have like a lot of RAM on my computer, but I don't think that influenced it too much because it's really, I think RAM is more so like the size of like the data set too, of like how much you want to fine tune. And like the fine tuning data that like we had was particularly long because it not only had like inputs and outputs of like question and answers, but also like the context, and those contexts were like generally pretty lengthy. But there's also an abundance of like cloud-based solutions that we can we can use for fine tuning. So yeah, but it's definitely like possible. Yeah, like as a CPU, it's just obviously going to be faster for the GPU.
So I had a similar experience as Spurthi to be able to reprompt and fine-tune GPT for all. You do need a lot more computing power, so it did take a lot longer on my end to be able to benchmark. However, it's still possible.
Caleb, can you hear me? It's okay. I think also, yeah, one thing that's worth mentioning here is I'm just gonna put this in like the chat. So we have a Slack channel. I recommend kind of joining because we want to essentially kind of continue the conversations from today to essentially build this community where we're kind of asking questions, working together, and like figuring out ways that we can like actually build practical kind of solutions. And then if you have kind of questions live, we can always like jump in and help with like implementation. But really the goal here is like the conversations will kind of continue from like days on end. So yeah, I think that's kind of it for Q&A. If anyone has like kind of questions that's in like the Zoom call, just like feel free to ask, or in person, feel free to kind of ask as well. And I think maybe in like 2 or 3 minutes, we'll kind of begin the second portion of these talks, which is, related to the startup presentation. So we have some really exciting startup speakers here today, and very, very thankful for kind of that. But yeah. So feel free to take like a 2-second break or 2-minute break. Yeah. Hey guys, we'll get started in 1 more minute with the startup talks. So this is going to be very exciting. We're going to be talking about some really innovative, cutting edge AI startups in New York. And we'll get started at 6:22. Hey guys, thanks for joining in. So we're going to get started with some of the startup talks today. Just some very exciting, work. We have actually 7 really incredible AI startups from, the New York and beyond entrepreneurship community that are joining us today, sharing some of the really exciting work they've been up to. So we have a bunch of really interesting work. We're expanding beyond Anote to kind of cover some of the work that other folks in the community are doing, our friends, to make AI more accessible. But first, we're going to talk about a really recent Anote spin out, a startup that I'm really proud of and think can have a really tremendous, positive, real impact in the world. And to give that presentation, we have a UC Berkeley grad, an incredible designer, and someone who's a really great friend, Christy Lin.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Natan, for that intro. Let me quickly share my screen. So, as Natan mentioned, I am currently the product manager and lead designer here at Upreach.ai, and I'm super excited to share with all of you guys the latest and greatest product here to revolutionize outreach in all of our workspaces. So what exactly is the current problem with outreach? Outreach is a super common and necessary component in many businesses, and no matter where you go, it's tedious and ineffective. First off, it's way too time consuming. Let's take an example, an average salesperson. 77% of their job is dedicated towards researching, finding, and reaching out to potential leads, leaving only less than 20% of their job dedicated towards selling. Second, it's extremely inefficient. When a business goal is to increase the quantity and quality of people that you're trying to target, tailored outreach to the desirable audience is nearly impossible. The average lead response time is 47 hours, and just 27% of the leads get contacted at all. And finally, it's a really repetitive process that takes up way too much manual labor and is also extremely costly. An average recruiter spends an average of $10 per lead on unreliable software to generate candidates that are often not qualified or a right fit for the role. So this is where Upreach comes in. Upreach is an AI-powered platform that upon the input of a one-line command, whether it be a keyword or natural language query, can precisely search for thousands of leads and generate specifically tailored emails to send to millions of people. So how does Upreach work? On keyword search, so it can be broken down into 4 extremely simple steps. So starting off with step 1, upon one search of a keyword, let's say, for example, marketing, Upreach uses AI to query through thousands of data sources and returns targeted results in a fraction of the time. You can leverage the power of our AI and you can access hard to find contact information of the best fitting prospects. We also have like a filtering system where you can narrow down your search to get more specific leads. Now that you've searched for leads, this is when you need to start contacting these profiles. You can unlock hyper-targeted contact profiles and add these contacts to specific lists for tailored sequences. Now it's time to create tailored emails for each prospect. GPT-4 does the initial research to craft compelling emails that are tailored and personalized towards each recipient. Not only can you do that, you can also verify and modify these emails to suit your specific needs, and we take proactive measures to ensure your messages won't be dropped in the spam folder. And finally, you can auto-send messages each day and watch your inbox grow. The AI can figure out who to reach out to and automatically send tailored messages to thousands of new targeted leads each day. Now, all you have to do is track response rates of these messages to optimize for metrics such as, let's say, response rate, revenue generated, or final meetings obtained. So now that you know how Upreach works, how do we exactly make this possible? Here's an illustration of how we start from the very, very beginning to process information and spit out the end result that our users are looking for. So let's walk through it. The first step is a user inputting an inquiry. Let's use a sales development representative as an example. They'll come to our platform and ask, reach out to a list of 10,000 New York-based heads of AI who work in mid-sized finance companies. Second, they'll be led through a specific AI workflow, let's say in this case, a sales workflow, who will then process this command and under specific guidelines will go through all of our data to find the most useful results. Where exactly are we getting all this data? As illustrated in step 3, our AI-powered data foundation plus all the open source information from the web is where Upreach is able to obtain the most reliable leads for each specific outreach effort. Next, Upreach will then give the user a curated list of leads as well as a tailored message sourced from our database to individually send to each targeted recipient. The emails can either be automatically sent or schedule sent, while all you have to do is track the progress. This cycle repeats itself for as long as you want it to run for without any additional manual labor. So we know that there's a lot of contact sourcing companies out there, but Upreach has some clear differentiators that makes us unique in the market. First, it's our valuable and quality data, where we've combined over 20 data sources to ingest terabytes of data. Using the best merging capabilities, we're able to create a master data schema to access information that no one else has. We are also able to efficiently search and filter through a massive amount of data at a fraction of the time and cost it would be for other companies. Our precise search also gives us the most high-quality leads, and our tailored AI email generation has the ability to create personalized emails that not only sound like you, but are also crafted to fit the profile of the recipients that you are targeting. This autonomous process can easily process natural language query, and upon command can keep running on its own with no additional labor. And finally, we're just super easy to use. Unlike other platforms that require extensive input, it takes you less than 2 minutes to get your outreach efforts started and running. So I know this is all talk and we're really selling Upreach out here, but we're really excited to show you our new and up and running product. Natan will take you all through a product demo to show you exactly how easy it is to use Upreach. Natan, feel free to take it away.
Thanks, Christy. Really appreciate it. This is an incredible talk. I want to go and show you guys today how the Upreach product works. So I'm going to go and just open up Google Chrome real quick. And here we have Upreach, right? This is kind of where you get to. Initially, when you kind of get to the website, you can just search on Upreach.ai, and you can kind of get to the initial, product. So this is our website, and to kind of get here, you just kind of click this Get Started button, right? And you get to this login page, you log in, and you get to the search. The first kind of component is where you can actually go and search for relevant leads. So let's say, I wanted to go and actually find all people who are at Microsoft. Maybe I'll search here, and I'll get a list of all the folks that, within our database, actually work there. If I wanted to, I can kind of filter it down based on industry, job title, company name, location, etc. Right? Now that you have these kind of profiles, you can actually unlock the ones you're interested in viewing. So maybe I'm interested in kind of learning more about Vijay. So essentially, I unlock his profile, and soon, I'll actually be able to kind of see the information about him. So I can kind of see his email, his LinkedIn URL, his industry, where he worked. And you have these kind of credits to unlock profiles. As we ingest more data on the back end, one thing we're working on is building the best search possible so that I can filter and find the most tailored, relevant, and accurate leads. You can kind of view the profiles you unlock to kind of understand information about them. Next, you have these lists. Lists are essentially where you can kind of keep the database of the people that you've unlocked. As you can see, I use this product every day, so I've kind of unlocked around 10,000 people almost, because this product's amazing. So I said I wanted to make a list that I call like my Microsoft list. And this is kind of where I'll kind of keep my Microsoft database. So hey, I want to add some contacts. Maybe I'll add this kind of contact that I just unlocked. And here, I kind of have this list, and I can just download this as a CSV to kind of have this list exported of these people on my local computer. I can also view the profile to kind of understand more about the people in the list if I wanted to. But yeah, back to this. Essentially, what I want to show you is a real example today of how I would actually use this product in practice to help me save time, but provide really personalized leads and emails. So maybe, I have all the people who are attending here at AI Day. And they are all here, and I wanted to kind of thank them for taking the time to actually attend their AI Day and write them a really personalized, tailored email. So here I'll kind of make this AI Day kind of list. And maybe I have this kind of a spreadsheet of contacts of folks that have actually attended AI Day. So on my desktop, I have this kind of spreadsheet, and you can kind of see some of the people, that have kind of attended AI Day. So we've had over 300 people sign up, and I just uploaded a CSV of like a sample of the folks that signed up for AI Day. And now, you know, maybe I want to generate emails to them. So here I'm going to create a template and I'm going to send this to, you know, this AI Day list of people. And maybe I'll call this the AI Day, like, thank you. Thanks for attending AI Day. And this will be from the Anote team, right? And I can kind of write a prompt of whatever I want to email this person. I've actually, you know, preloaded a prompt here that I think was pretty good. So I'm going to go and actually copy and paste this prompt in, which basically says, as a technology entrepreneur and founder, write an email to express our gratitude in attending our recent AI Day Summit. Mention that the point of this conference is to build a community of individuals interested in making artificial general intelligence accessible, and invite them to join the Anote community Slack channel to stay engaged and participate in future events. So I can kind of hit this generate button. And what it will do is it will actually generate this email to Christy, who's the first person on the list. And it will kind of write a really tailored email to kind of, you know, send to her, thanking her for kind of being in this conference. And I can hit save to kind of generate this for everyone in my list. So essentially here, this in the backend will trigger the GPT model that will take in a bunch of information about the person and use this to kind of make emails. So it sometimes takes a bit of time to load, but you can actually go and generate these emails with people, and you see kind of some of the folks on the list, you know, we're generating like really great emails. Maybe I'd want to kind of modify a few of these. So, you know, for instance, maybe for my sister, I might want to send something, you know, different than to other folks. So maybe I want to say, thank you, sister. And I'd hit, you know, save changes. And maybe I'll verify this as like, this is approved and we should kind of send this. That way we know it's. What I can actually do now is send all the emails if I wanted to, or I can kind of click on the specific modal and hit the send now button. If I input my credentials here, what will actually happen is this will actually go to my actual inbox. So if I actually kind of went here and sent this, you know, email to Vidra Natan, which is my personal email, I can actually go and load my normal email. And this should actually be able to see this email within my inbox saying, you know, thank you for attending AI Day. And so you can kind of see here, we have a lot of people signing up for AI Day. I have an email for myself that looks like pretty accurate, something that I might normally say, but in my inbox, right? You can imagine for like hundreds of emails, thousands of emails, I don't want to type this in manually, but maybe there's slight adjustments that I would want to make. Maybe I'd want, you know, the emails to sound like me, and maybe the data I have and ingested can actually help me make better emails and find new things I can include in my emails that I otherwise would not obtain. Now, you know, we have a lot of things here, but let's say we don't want to do any of the work on the UI, but we just want to completely automate the process. What I can kind of do is I would say, I want to reach out to all heads of AI and share information about AI Day, right? And what I can do is I can actually just generate this on a one-line query. And what it will do is it actually will go and find all the roles of people I should reach out to, all the companies, and, you know, it'll actually generate their criteria. It will actually, you know, generate an example email, which might not be like ideally kind of what I want. So I can kind of actually edit things such as like the name, it should be from Natan, AI Day notice, you know, and I can kind of edit, you know, the prompt as well, but I won't do that now, but it will kind of change the content of the emails, right? And for 3, you know, maybe I can just kind of define how many credits I want to spend on this automation. So I'll only kind of spend 10 credits. This can maybe last, you know, like 1 week, and maybe I'll do like 2 rounds of items. So just to kind of determine how many emails I should send. And when I hit the save button, what will happen is, you know, it'll actually go and generate these items. This is a sample email. And if I hit play, what will actually happen is it's finding people that I never really knew, new leads in our data that you would otherwise not have, and generates really great, precise, tailored emails to these people that I can kind of either view in the sample template, or I can even go to my emails page and actually see the emails and the list generated that it actually kind of did. So it's really amazing. It finds these new leads that I otherwise would have never known and actually generates these emails to people that I would have not done before, right? So really, really especially great things, that are very, very cool. Finding new leads, generating new emails, and maybe I'll make a new friend in the process. So that's Upreach, what we're really working on now is kind of making the data better, making the search better, making this as production ready as possible. But this is a really revolutionary product that we think can hopefully make life a lot easier for people.
Thank you, Natan, for the product demo. Super cool. And hope you guys, if you have any questions in particular, please don't hesitate to reach out to Natan and I to learn more about Upreach. So with that being said, I want to give a huge shout out to the team responsible for making Upreach possible. Of course, we have Natan and Tommy here, the founders of Upreach. We also have Jake. Jake, I saw your face flash briefly within this Zoom call. Huge shout out to Jake for being the mastermind behind all the data to make Upreach possible. And today, unfortunately, we don't have Rajat joining us, but Rajat is our full stack developer who created this entire Upreach site, making it as beautiful and wonderful as it is, as well as Jenny and Kashmala are amazing designers who made Upreach's AI look the way that it is and is why it's so easy to use. So huge shout out to the team. And yeah, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us if you guys have more questions about Upreach. Cool. Thank you. I believe, Natan, if you would like to take over.
We'll take like a 2-minute break just to kind of get set up. And then next up in 2 minutes at 6:41, we'll have Amrutha be presenting the slides from Structured, a really fabulous startup. So we'll be back at 6:41. Hey guys, it's 6:41 and we're back. So thanks, Christy, for the really incredible presentation. That was phenomenal. Upreach is a really incredible product, and I hope really the world can kind of see how impactful it is. Next up, we have my really good friend, someone who we actually kind of met about 1.5 years ago when we started building Anote. She's kind of stuck to this day, working really hard, and has built a really incredible startup in the US, Y Combinator backed. And really, more importantly, just a really great person in the AI community and someone that I personally admire. Let's give it up for Amrutha.
Share the screen or slide?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you, Natan, for that wonderful introduction. Happy to share a little bit more about Structured with all of you today. This has been a phenomenal event so far. Thank you again for having me. So yeah, I'm Amrutha, one of the co-founders of Structured. We are working on building a modern way to create a unified data model for teams that are like trying to get insights from disparate data sources. So our team is, our co-founding team is me and my very talented co-founder Shivam. We were both like from the University of Washington and formerly engineers from Meta. And the unique thing about AI that we're really excited about is the fact that AI can really bring semantic context to massive volumes of data. And it can really enable people to understand the narrative within like previously disjointed data sets for the first time. So we've seen this like time and time again from a lot of conversations with our customers, where we've seen that like people want to understand not just like what is contained in like one of their several tools in their tool set, but rather like understand the insights that exist when you have several different sources. So for example, if you're like, let's say you're like a revenue team or a sales team, it's not enough to understand the data that's in your CRM, but rather you want to understand everything in the pipeline, everything from the customer success function to the sales function to the accounting function. You want to really understand the analytics like from several different sources. And so that's really the type of company that we wanted to build. So happy to show you what we have so far. Have a demo video here today. So we've really enabled like two key functions. One is like the ability to query over your data, and the second is the ability to build automated like dashboard and report from your connected data set. So see, this might take a second to load, but you can see that like, for example, if you want to query over like, let's say demo usage logs, and you want to understand like how your current customers are like interacting with your product, you can come here and like select the demo usage logs and ask a question in natural language, like say, you know, tell me about the usage patterns for each feature. So this like enables you to not only see the source of like your original data set, but also like get like semantically meaningful results, like how many minutes were people using your product for, what was the most common feedback for a given feature, how many times did people log in. So being able to query for this information from like, let's say a product usage source and ask a question in natural language, it really like opens up the ability for your team to make like meaningful, like data-driven decisions. And this tool that we've built, like, you know, the AI part of it is, you know, the parsing of the original request from the user, really trying to like understand like the user intent. And then like we use like AI, like large language models to convert this natural language query into an open search query. And then on the back end, like, you know, we have indexed this like very like large like log file, and we're able to use this open search query to you know, generate like much more like, you know, powerful results. And then we're able to then use LLMs again to like present that information back to the user in like a way that is very digestible and very like useful. And the second feature that I can show you today is like called reports. So in the same vein of being able to write queries and like extract that meaningful answer to your question with natural language, we've now created reports. So reports like really combines a lot of the same like essence of queries, but it's really a way to like do like a guided exploration of your data. So sometimes like, especially like when you're like, let's say a leader in an organization, you might not fully know what the underlying representation of that data is, or you might not know where to look to answer the question. And so what reports does is it really enables you to like not only like not really need to like write a query or like even have a question to start with. We can use AI to look at the schema of all of the connected like data files and like come up with interesting questions and surface them proactively to you. So here's an example where, let's say you have like a revenue CSV file. You can come here and you can like quickly understand like, you know, what does the data in this file mean? What does it represent? And like get like these like really beautiful charts and like at a glance answer to like any kind of question that you might not even know to ask in the first place. And one of the things that we really love about reports personally is the ability to you know, export these like reports, share them with your team. You can like iterate on them over time, and like these are all like you know, like ways to really like, you know, be able to have a playground for your data and like really leverage AI to get answers and like get reports and like beautiful formats that can make you like, you know, a lot more productive and collaborate with your team in a more you know, like meaningful and data-driven way. So that's a little sneak peek into the things that we're building at Structured. You know, we're still like pretty early on in the sense that like, you know, we really believe that, you know, the journey's only 1% finished, and we have so much more to learn about this space and so much more left to build. But I think speaking for myself, the thing that I'm most excited about with this technology is, you know, really being a part of this new like platform shift and like new capability that just couldn't really have been built before. So yeah, that's me, that's Structured, and yeah, really excited for the rest of the event and the speakers yet to come. Thank you for having me again.
Thanks, Amrutha, for a really fabulous, you know, presentation. Structured is one of the most amazing companies out there, and we're really kind of thankful that they're kind of within our community. You know, they're a really awesome company. So yeah, I guess Brendon, are you on the line? Yeah. I think you should be co-host. So next we'll kind of have Brendon Geils. So Brendon's the founder of a really great company in New York called Athena Intelligence. He's also my really great friend. We've kind of seen on these conferences talking about Gen AI and LLMs. He's built something really special out here in New York, and we're really excited to kind of have him share more about what he's working on.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. So for today, we're going to try to do a live demo. We'll see how we do Friday at 7 p.m. And then instead of doing maybe a deep dive on like some heavy use cases in the platform, what we wanted to do today is maybe show the different form factors that we're thinking about in the AI space. So I'll start by sharing, and we'll walk through a few of these. A little bit about myself and the company Athena. We're about 2 years old. Prior to this, I spent about 4.5 years with Palantir doing defense intelligence and healthcare workflows in the Middle East as well as in DC. Here today with Anton, one of our lead engineers. Athena is a enterprise analytics platform. It's got a similar feel to Structured probably. The problem we're solving is the ability to interact with data isn't always best through a SQL notebook or through a chat interface like ChatGPT. So today we're going to look at what are some of those other form factors, starting with one of our workflows, which is in Spaces. Spaces to us is quite similar to a whiteboard-like experience. If people are familiar with Miro, of course, we'll have to get some demo reloads here going. So briefly, before we jump in, I want to just highlight the 4 different form factors that I want to talk about today. The first one is going to be chat, which everyone's probably used to. Second one is reports, which also kind of has like a very close to heart feel. This is, your Google Docs, your Notions of the world. Some of the newer ones that we're noticing are notebooks, specifically Jupyter notebooks, which a number of people have seen, like probably Hex or Deep Note, a bunch of really good tech that's out there. And then the last one, which we'll start with today actually, is going to be Spaces, which is our whiteboard style experience, which I'm demoing here now. One of the ways that we kind of think about this problem slightly different is in the same way that you're able to interact with all of your primitives. Primitives to us are things like documents, data sets, queries, charts, either generated within our system or imported, as well as your conversations, reports, your Jupyter notebooks. How can we provide an environment where people can not only ask natural language questions of the data, but also like think about this in a more multimodal way, where in this occurrence, we're actually having the system look at not only the underlying query and data, but also the output of this graph. It's going to perform like a light analysis for us. We can take this analysis, copy it down, ask for some more information, or more interestingly, open it up in another one of our form factors that we're going to talk about today. One classic workflow we see is someone has a PDF with a bunch of table data in it, and they want to be able to just simply transcribe that. One of these simple workflows today, takes you 30 minutes. You're going to fat finger 1 or 2 of these in the process. So we're going to optimize a lot of those by just simply giving you that interface to run that query. I can save this as CSV, copy it down, or upload it directly in the system. The last one that I want to highlight is, kind of already showed it here, is being able to directly draw on some of these items and say something along the lines of this. Pull data for this region and help recommend some reasons why we see a dip. So hopefully now you're starting to realize kind of like the different ways you're able to interact with a data analytics platform outside of your typical form factors. As it's loading, I'll just kind of quickly pull back. Everything that we're going to look at today, one of the things I like to mention is some of the collaboration features. So if everyone wants to pull their phone out or a tablet or on their desktop, you can go to the link that Anton's going to share. And we're actually going to have everyone kind of jump into a public report. And I'll actually save the analysis that just got created. And we'll jump over to kind of form factor number 2. I'm going to open up one of these collaborative reports. And as people start jumping in, we should be able to see, again, similarly, the ability to query that data, pull in the information, but also have the ability to finish some of the analytical tasks in line using some of these AI-assisted features. Simple autocomplete is just a nice to have. Some of the core differences that you'll notice with not only notebooks, but also the spaces and reporting workflows these are all based on the LLM that either a customer brings or that they choose for us to bring on their behalf. To highlight a few of these form factors, models, I'll quickly open our chat UI. This is a more typical UI most folks are used to, so I won't go through a super in-depth demo today, but just to briefly highlight some of the features that we're going to see. Everything from your charting and analysis workflows, again, connected to all the tools that make sense for the company, as well as the knowledge base of relevant information and an internal model, an on-prem model for our models. Finally, if we inspect any of these elements, we can see the underlying execution log of how it came up to the answer, everything from the SQL queries it ran to the Python code that's potentially being sandboxed and run, depending on what is the type of execution permissions that Athena has been granted. We're deployed today with companies and enterprises such as Anheuser-Busch, working on a whole slew of workflows. We're going to note a couple of them here in the form of tasks. And we don't have enough time today, but there's a whole suite of data tools and data science tools that we can really spend a lot of time digging into. Lastly, before we go, I'll just quickly flash the notebooks-like environment. And again, that same primitive of your reports, your documents, your data sets, your analyses, passing that through a whiteboard, a report, a chat, or a notebook are all accessible in this final workflow. And not only are they accessible, but what you'll notice here is all of these features, again, have an Athena kind of flavor to it, where she's able to help generate code, write code, bring in information, such as some of the reporting workflows that we have called out here. This is everything we actually just demoed is now like publicly available. So for the first time this week, we're now sending it out there for the rest of the world. So please feel free to jump in, give it a try right now, and let us know if you have any questions. And hopefully we got a couple more people sneaking into our reports as we finish.
Thanks so much, Brendon. Thanks so much, Brendon. That was a really fabulous, incredible presentation. I really especially like those reports. That was like really cool, and this is actually something I would definitely use. So kudos and congrats for doing like an amazing job. Next up, we have my really good friend, someone who've actually met about a year and a half ago when I was doing Pitch and Run. We were just kind of talking about AI, Gen AI, the future of LLMs, and maybe how it would kind of impact the advertisement space. And over time, it's been really incredible to see some of the fabulous work he's been doing. And we're really proud to kind of have as our next speaker as Stephen Liss.
All right. Am I selected as the person?
Yeah, should be good.
Cool. Yeah. So, hi, I'm Stephen Liss, co-founder and CEO of OpenAds.ai, live from New York, 1.5 feet to the right of Natan. And I'm here to talk about what advertising is going to look like on the generative internet. So I'm going to show you sort of a story of what's happening across the internet and then show you what the next generation of ads look like. So let me just double check the chat. We have some messages. Yep, we're good. Right. So right now, the reason we're all on a Zoom call on a Friday evening is because AI is changing the internet. We're seeing the shift from static content to generative content. And if you want to understand how the internet's evolved over the last 25 years and what this evolution is going to look like going forward, the best heuristic is to understand that form inevitably follows finance. So the shape of the internet always tends to follow the business model. And this is a story that's played out several times over the evolution of the internet, with the transition from desktop to mobile, like mobile to connected TVs, and now this change from static to generative content. Every time the way we consume media changes, there are new ad formats and new ad networks built. So what this generative internet is starting to look like, and we're already seeing it. We have AI search products like Perplexity, U.com, iAsk. Some of these are growing extremely quickly, already tens of millions of users. In the near term, we're seeing much more in the way of dynamic content. So instead of going to, say, Forbes or New York Times and reading the same articles that everyone else does, it's going to be more interactive. The question, and of course, chatbots and companions and agents are already seeing really high usage numbers. The average session for an inflection user is something like 90 minutes. So people are getting value out of these products, but the question right now everyone should be asking is who's paying for all this? Right now, this wave of generative AI has been subsidized by venture capital. But historically, the only way that you scale anything to the size of the internet is through ad monetization. Usually, users aren't willing to pay subscriptions. So you can't just turn on Google Ads for generative content. The problem essentially is that when an AI is creating content in real time, like ChatGPT, advertisers don't know what's going to come out of that. So that breaks targeting. It creates risks for the brands. They don't know if the content's going to be safe. And so to create ads, you actually need a second AI that can understand the conversation and ideally even create a custom ad in real time. So unlike what advertising looks like on the internet right now, which is this awful experience, blanketing the page. Is if you go to ChatGPT and ask for, say, a recipe, it's very clean without ads. So the challenge for us at OpenAds is we know advertising is coming. How can we finance and monetize generative AI without selling out the user experience? And the answer is actually in AI itself. For the first time, we're actually able to redefine what an ad can be, really treating them as a form of information retrieval and discovery. So now I'm going to demonstrate what these new ads look like. So this is an example of an AI search engine using RAG, retrieval augmented generation. And if you ask it a question like, what are some public speaking tips? Something pretty relevant at the moment. So give this a moment because it's running locally and this is a build that we just pushed. Wow, that was fast. So the way AI search works is instead of Google with 10 blue links, you get an actual answer. The AI reads pages across the internet. And we want our ads to be as good as this experience. They should ideally be complementary, not a distraction. And so in this case, OpenAds found this brand, MentorBox. And let's see, the copy is boosts confidence and master public speaking with MentorBox's expert workshops and tools. So this is an ad that was generated in real time, customized to my question and this AI's response. I have some other examples. If you were to ask for meal prep ideas for busy engineer, we have, oh, it's clever. It's an engineer a faster meal. So yeah, this is really raising the bar for what the ad experience can be. But to actually make this useful, why not add AI to the ads themselves? So if I want to ask this company, we're all trained not to click on ads, but let me just ask, how do I get started? So if this works, it's actually going to check this AI's understanding of this brand and actually answer questions. So this is creating a much deeper, informative experience between the user who's looking for a recommendation and this brand who wants to educate the user about their product. So I can ask, what's it cost? And we're going from just ads as a distraction taking over screen real estate to a form of information retrieval itself. So with that, I'm going to open the floor to as many questions as we have time for. Let's see if we have Q&A. All right, I think we're good. I can't hear anyone else. Natan, do you have any questions from the audience?
Yeah, is anyone posted in the Q&A chat?
Don't think so. Let's see, in the chat. No. Anyways, yeah, we expect you'll have a chance to see these ads coming to a chatbot or an AI search engine near you over the next few months.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much, Steven. That was like really incredible presentation.
Let me mute this.
Okay. Yeah, it was really awesome kind of learning a little bit about how generative AI is actually like making a huge impact in the advertising space. This is kind of some product that I thought has been like really cool a while. I see like some really nice enhancements in the UI as well as functionality. I think this is like really awesome and I highly recommend, everyone go and check it out. Wow, super cool. So next up we have my friend. He's actually building a really cool startup to disrupt, the recruitment space. Faraz Siddiqi. Faraz, feel free to take it away.
Hi, everyone. Are you going to make me co-host on this one? There we are. Cool. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Faraz. Nice to meet you. I am the founder and CEO of Hatch, where we're building the first generation of Gen AI digital recruiters. So thank you so much for the introduction, Natan. I'm joined by my two co-founders, Mahi and Abhigya. They're also in the Zoom meeting today. And I'll be talking a little bit about generative agents and their multi-step HR workflow integrations. So I'm going to go share my screen here real quick. All right. So I'll go through a little bit about what generative agents are, how they're useful, and then I'll do a little bit of a hatch demo towards the very end, and I'll talk about what we're actually building here today. So yeah, generative agents, they are very useful in multi-step HR workflows, but the term generative agents is actually relatively new. It just came into light and into the main stage in around 2022 when there was this new paper that was produced by a bunch of Stanford researchers called Generative Agents and Simulacra. So that's kind of what they are, but specifically, right, there's a huge amount of overlap between the term generative agents, Gen AI, and also, of course, chatbots. So like, I want to start off by distinguishing what those are real quick. So of course, Gen AI is this overall trend, the idea that, there are models that are produced that have an increasingly large amount of size. They're autoregressive, so they probabilistically predict the next word in a sequence when popping it out. So that's the Gen AI field in general, but then from there, chatbots are the first wave of Gen AI, where we can, train a model on a large swath of text and information and output a seemingly human-like set of sentences that make a user believe that they're almost talking to someone that's real. But there are a series of fallbacks associated with chatbots, right? They're very hallucination prone in the sense that they're always getting things wrong all the time. And there are a lot of issues associated with privacy, especially when you're using public or private, models that you're just kind of contracting out to APIs. So generative agents are a little bit better. They're like the second generation, I would like to say, of Gen AI. They're a better version of chatbots because they don't just, take an input and try to, like in an autoregressive fashion, create an output. They do something more than that. They perceive, they reflect, plan, and act. And these 4 steps are basically like in an example. If someone as a user puts in a prompt to a generative agent, the agent can perceive this prompt and turn it into something called a memory stream, which is basically like a condensed version of that prompt. It can then reflect and plan upon prompts that it receives over time. And then based upon its previous prompts that it was asked about, it can act in more specific and specialized ways for your customers. So they are basically better versions of chatbots. They're highly more specialized. They have much lower hallucination rates, and they are more believable. So if, in this paper, the Simulacra paper, one interesting study was, trying to determine whether humans could figure out whether they're talking to a chatbot or a generative agent or not. Of course, the baseline here is random chance, 50-50. And this paper achieved 69%, which is only basically 19% more than random chance that they were talking to an agent. So the fact that they're able to achieve this level of believability is really useful, not just in an academia sense, but also they're really good for customers because we can then increase that level of believability, have a seamless experience when you're doing marketing, and ensure that the customer outcomes have higher satisfaction. So let's talk about generative agents in the industry real quick. Specifically in e-commerce, right? Right now, when we're doing customer support in e-commerce, we have manual customer support and we have chatbots. Manual customer support, as we know, is costly. Even if you're outsourcing or you're hiring inside as well, in the country as well, this is a really costly endeavor. On top of that, there is a lot of turnover associated with the e-commerce customer support industry. And on the existing chatbots in this space are clunky. They're hallucination prone. And, if you have a chatbot that is talking about your product and they say they get some, piece of information wrong, that's a loss of a customer. And that's really not something that we should be able to allow. So here are some companies that are working on generative customer service agents. Yuma in specific is a up and rising one. They're YC23, I believe. And they're basically building a series of customized chatbots or more towards the generative agent sense. That they're very easily customizable for your e-commerce workflows. In software development, there is a similar kind of project out here. It's not a full-fledged product yet, but it's called AutoGen. It's released by Microsoft earlier this year. I'm sure some of the Microsoft people on this call can attest to it, but existing chatbots may output incorrect and unsafe code. We've all heard of the Samsung example earlier in 2023 when, in May, there was like this massive data leak that ended up in Samsung banning all interactions with employees and OpenAI products or generative AI products in general, sorry. So these are real issues in the space that they're impeding a developer's ability to code with generative AI. So building open source agents hosted on your company's cloud with multi-agent collaboration is really important here. So by multi-agent, I am taking into account the fact that when a user inputs a prompt, it doesn't go to one agent and one agent responds with a prompt. It goes to a team of agents where maybe one agent is specializing in product management, another specializing in software engineering, and another one specializing in DevOps, let's say. Then they can deliberate over an answer, pass it back and forth between one another before actually giving the final answer to you. So what this results in is a much lower hallucination rate and a higher accuracy in general for what you're trying to achieve. So you get a team of people working for you as opposed to one person working for you whenever you ask a chatbot a question. So this is it for e-commerce and software development. One massive field where generative agents are going to have a big uptick in is in HR and recruiting. And that's kind of where Hatch comes in. So Hatch is building the first generation of Gen AI digital recruiters. And our first offering, Athena, is a full-scale recruiter who can work with you to accomplish any recruiting task you want. So she's able to go on LinkedIn, find your candidates, source your candidates. She can go and look at your existing applicant pool and recommend top talent and hires. She takes into account your kinds of skills and important experiences that you find valuable inside of candidates. And most of all, she gives you back high quality talent and saves you a lot of time. So that's the number one big thing with founders, right? We have very little time to do things that are extraneous to building our product, to building our company. So whenever there is a product that can help you save this kind of time, that's pretty useful. So let's take a look at how this actually works. And I will share my quick little demo real quick. All right. So this is Hatch. We're live. We are going to do a live demo of Athena, which is our first recruiter. And I have a job kind of up and ready for the demo today. So I want to go through the job creation process. So as a founder, if you have a bunch of existing job applications or you have, the need to find someone.
Really quick. We're seeing your slide here, not the hatchrecruiting.com.
Oh, okay. Give me a quick second.
Yeah, good.
It's better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as I was saying, there was we have our it's hatchrecruiting.com where I've created a demo account for Anote today. So let's say we're hiring for like a front end as front end software engineer, and this would kind of be where you put your job rec, or if you don't really care too much, internal title. From there, you can put in a description, which I've just taken the liberty of grabbing from another job posting where basically you have like general responsibilities. Notice how these are all very qualitative. There's no hard skills here. There's no HTML, CSS. The point of this is just to give Hatch a qualitative idea of what your job is all about. Maybe a little bit about your company, maybe a little bit about your founders, that kind of stuff. From there, now that Hatch has an understanding of a qualitative description of your job, now we go to hard skills. So you can feel free to put these in the chat, by the way. I can add them in. But I'm going to think that HTML, CSS, maybe JavaScript are really important. I'll take a quick pause if anyone wants to add any skills live. If not, I'll keep on thinking of maybe React, let's say Angular. Anything else from the audience? Okay, seeing none. Generally speaking, what we're doing here is we're putting in skills that are that we want Athena, which is our recruiter, to take into account. Maybe we want someone with 4 years of experience and to be working in the technology industry. From there, what we can do is we can tell how important these skills are to Athena. So we're going to tell Athena here that HTML and CSS are very important. Same with JavaScript. React is also kind of important, but Angular, maybe not so much. So maybe Angular is like a 2. From there, we've created a full job card for Athena to review, to understand from the company perspective what your job looks like, which is really nice. And we can publish this. From here, you can upload your resumes, which I've already done in this job over here to save us a couple of minutes in query time. So here's what your rankings would look like after you upload all your candidates, which by the way, just takes a couple minutes. The benefit of all this is that previously, right, when you would have to go through maybe hundreds, if not, thousands of resumes by hand or by outsourcing them to an external recruitment team, that takes a lot of effort and it takes weeks, if not months, to go through all of these people properly. Instead, Athena goes through them in a matter of minutes. She gives you, an explanation as to why every candidate is in the position they are in. So they have a description of what's going on. They have a really condensed view of their resume in terms of all their experiences, who they are, where they worked at, the skills associated with people's jobs, their educations, their general skills. and other cool things like their links, like their LinkedIn's, like their personal websites, for example. We can go and check out, who these people are in a very condensed format. So from there, we can keep on finding people. Oops, that's why this is a demo, I believe. But we can keep on finding people to see what's going on about all these candidates. So it's really nice. The final part of this is Athena, where you can actually talk to all your candidate pool live. And Athena is basically like this interface where she's a generative agent as well. And you can ask her really open-ended questions. So like, for example, here's one that we had come up with earlier. We were thinking for this to be more of like a non-technical question where we're saying, hey, listen, we're looking for an entry-level engineer. They need to have they need to have experience building seamless and zippy tools. So we're going to enter that over here, and Athena's going to think about this response. So Athena is not just actually Athena, she's actually talking to a series of her colleagues as well, all of her generative colleagues, to come up with a really good answer for you to figure out exactly who in your candidate pool is the best fit for this specific description that you just gave her, not necessarily the ranks that you put in. So remember, this entire process is it brings the recruitment time from around a month to straight up minutes by talking to Athena, who understands a lot more about your candidates than just external recruiters. So give her a quick second over here while she thinks about it. But overall, yeah, that's how Hatch generally works. One other cool thing about Athena is that she doesn't just look at people's resumes. She goes through people's LinkedIn's and GitHubs and portfolios. So there's more information associated with someone's job as well than just someone's resume data. And it seems to be taking slightly longer than expected. So I'll give it maybe 10 more seconds and I'll hold off over there. Okay, seems like there's a bit of lag, so we'll skip the Athena demo for now. But generally speaking, that's how Hatch works. That's an overall view of what's going on with Hatch and how you can save a lot of time and increase the quality for your hires. And if you're interested in learning more, we can do a demo whenever you guys are available. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Faraz. That was a really incredible presentation. Honestly, it seems like a really fabulous company. The Athena product, really seems like something that I would use if I was looking for a job. Honestly, I know a lot of people that I think could use that thing, and it's just really impactful both from both sides, from the candidate as well as the recruiter perspective. So I think it's a great example of how you can use generative AI, and really appreciate you kind of sharing it with our community today.
Thank you so much.
Of course. So next up we have Hamza. So Hamza is a really good friend of ours. He's actually kind of been building this really great startup alongside Angela, who's kind of part of the AI Furnace. They're building this really cool thing called Vokel.ai that can help with deepfakes. Hamza, I'll let you kind of take it from here.
Hi everyone. I'll start presenting now, but yeah, so I'll be presenting Vokel.ai and I'll just share my screen now. Okay, you can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Great, okay. So yeah, we're building Vokel.ai deepfake detection for AI voice fraud and misinformation. So yeah, we're entering a world where most content in the future will be AI generated. We're already seeing this with with AI content flooding every channel and every content vertical. And I'm sure everyone's been following some of the news around AI voice cloning and the calls that where people are impersonating politicians and spreading misinformation, especially around Joe Biden's fake phone call that was deterring people from voting. And so, this is growing into a massive problem. And the kind of problems that are coming out from this are huge, stemming from election fraud, identity theft, and then that's just problems today, and then problems tomorrow are going to be even crazier. So in terms of the fraud market, it's estimated that by 2030, $23 billion are estimated to be lost due to deep fakes. And the kind of the losses could also, per attack could be $81,000 to $98,000. And so this is growing into a huge problem that's moving from a consumer issue to an enterprise issue. And in that world, humans will not be able to scale with that amount of content. And we need AI to police AI. And every business is going to need to adapt. So introducing Vocal, what we're building is deepfake detection tools to protect enterprises from fraud and misinformation. We've actually started our technological development on the audio side. So we're specifically focusing on audio through our API platform, but we're also going to be developing our image and video detection tools next. But we just want to crack the audio, our audio detection models, and make sure that they're the best technology in the market. So that's what we've been focusing on. In terms of the use cases, just to give you an idea of what kind of enterprises would be interested in our technology. So banks are starting to get more calls from customers complaining about these issues from deepfake frauds and voice clones. And so telephone banking fraud is going to be a big thing. And so, that's one market that we're looking into and speaking to customers there. It's interesting because in the UK, there's been some regulatory changes as well, where now the burden is more on the banks, so that when consumers are defrauded, banks actually have to pay out more. And so there's some interesting shifts on the regulatory landscape that are happening. This is also an issue in terms of the platforms such as TikTok, Spotify, and YouTube. They need to beef up content moderation around deepfakes, especially with ads being put out on the platforms, especially with the political situation and elections coming up. I think content moderation is something we're speaking to customers about. And there's also the media and reporting side, which also pertains to the elections that are coming up and the misinformation that could come out of deepfakes. So I can just run through our demo, taking a step back, going through the demo now. So this demo is actually based on one of our detection models, which is around audio and music, but we also have a detection model for voice, which is more targeted towards voice cloning. So this is more for let's say the platforms such as YouTube and TikTok. So we've created a front-end version just for demo purposes so that we can take you through it. But this is actually an API, so the magic happens in the back. So I know there've been a lot of really cool demos that we've seen. So our one is more simple because it's actually an API, and we've just created a front-end version for these purposes. So what I'll do is we'll go into YouTube, and I've just typed in AI cover song because I want to grab an AI cover. And this is an AI generated song. So I can grab the link and I would paste it into our website. And then you can see that our detection model, the song went through the model and it came out as most likely AI generated. So that was accurate. And now just to compare that, I'll go on to YouTube again and get a non-AI generated song. So something that's official. And then I'll paste that back into our website. And this again runs through our detection model, and it returns with the answer that most likely this song was not generated by AI. So it's kind of a simple demonstration, but the way our technology works is that there's two sides to it. The song or the audio, whether that's a voice or a sound or a song, runs through our detection model, and it's a classifier that determines whether something is AI generated or not. And then we also have a fingerprint which can attribute the voice to a person as well. So there's two sides to that. In terms of where we are today, as I said, we've been building out our audio detection model, and that has reached an accuracy score of 96%. And we're working on improving that. And our latency is less than 0.5 seconds. So we've actually reached quite a good level. And especially on our voice detection model, we've managed to get a high accuracy on a few different voice generators, such as 11 Labs, which you may have heard of. And we've also secured our first customer on the audio side, which is exciting. And then coming to the team now. So before I started Vokel, I was a lawyer, and so the truth is the most important thing to me. And so this is a business that I'm very passionate about. And as a team, we've all worked on B2B SaaS AI products for the likes of Accenture, Linklaters, JP Morgan, Hex, and our technical co-founder, who's the CTO. He has a PhD in physics, and he was working on infringement tech before this, doing R&D on the AI side. So we're a strong team to tackle this problem. And yeah, this problem is snowballing with the elections coming up. We're now speaking to a lot of fact-checking companies to start implementing our technology to help protect democracy on that side too. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, Hamza. That was a really fabulous presentation on Vokel.ai. I thought it was really exciting, seeing some of the work you're doing with deepfakes and fake news and understanding what's the truth. So we really appreciate kind of the work you've been doing, and thanks so much for sharing. I found the presentation particularly insightful. So next up, we actually have I guess a few questions for you in the Q&A chat from Caleb. So he asks, what is the URL for Vokel.ai, and are you still in stealth mode?
Yeah, so I've just sent through the link. It's Vokel.ai, very simple, but Vokel is VOKEL. We are kind of still in stealth. We haven't really kind of publicized ourselves too much, but we will be doing so in the next few weeks. So yeah, if you keep an eye on it, we'll be providing more information on the website.
Thanks so much, Hamza. I really appreciate it. This is really a fabulous talk. I will definitely be keeping a lookout for, your website, because honestly, like this, especially with like the elections coming up, as like the Joe Biden example you mentioned, is something that's like really important that we kind of understand and what's truth and what's not. So thank you. You're doing a great job. Next up, we have our kind of final speaker presentation for the startup side. From Promptlayer, Promptlayer is actually a company that Anote has been friends with for a while. My co-founder Tommy actually went to high school with Jared, who's one of the founders of Promptlayer. And really, Promptlayer is a really fabulous tool when you're looking at kind of different types of prompts, reprompting, as well as kind of being able to evaluate the output from prompts. I personally think it's a fabulous tool, and I'm really excited for Naheul Borda, one of the founding engineers of Promptlayer, to give a product demo. Naheul, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Well, hi everybody. I'm Naheul from Promptlayer. If you're the kind of person who likes to have control over every aspect of your development process, whether that being monitorization, observability, version control, or CI/CD pipelines, then stay tuned, because we have the prompt engineering platform for you. Right now, the rest of Promptlayer team is working on customers' feature requests, improving our code base, and providing 24/7 support while we keep on pushing the edge of what the future could be with AI and LLM systems. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Right, can you see my screen? Yes?
Yeah.
Right. So we intentionally build Promptlayer as an interdisciplinary prompt engineering platform because we constantly see a lot of both technical and non-technical stakeholders collaborating on LLM applications. We see lawyers, health professionals, machine learning researchers, project managers, and engineers, all of them working together on Promptlayer. Let me log myself into my account. Right. So we have workspaces. Let me pick the one I have a little demo for you. Right. So this is our dashboard. This is part of our product. Our product is both a dashboard, an SDK for Python, and an SDK for JavaScript. If you look at the left, you will see the request log stack. This is where you will be probably spending most of your time. And if you are integrating Promptlayer with your LLM application, you want to see how it's running. So you will get that from here. Every time that you do an execution, you will have this, which is the prompt that is being inputted to the model and its response. You also have a few more stuff here that you can use. First off is linking that to an actual template, because we allow you to store those in the registry. We'll be there in a minute. And you also have grouping. Maybe you're working on agents, you're working on a modularized system, and you want to keep logs separated. Well, that's what groups is for. You are allowed to group different request sets. You're also allowed to score them from 0 to 100, and you also can put custom stores here. You're allowed to share this page maybe with someone who is in another workspace or someone who is not from Promptlayer at all. Maybe you want to do a Twitter demo, you can use this. And you're also allowed to set metadata. What's metadata for? Maybe in your application, the prompt is interacting with a specific user. Well, maybe you want to capture some information of how that's going. Maybe the browser he's coming from, other kind of stuff, and you want to have that somewhere. Well, this is the place for it. Right. So what's with this cost situation happening here? Well, this card is showing you a lot of information, how much time it took to run, what's the cost for it. I think, yeah, this is the latest GPT 3.5 model, and it's the one that's cost saving. So it's actually pretty cheap. We were testing that. You'll also see how much token you spend, the model params, and a bit more stuff. You will also have that, or a bit of that information from the analytics page. Yeah, this is pretty self-explanatory. This is what's happening on your workspace, how much requests you've been putting, the ones you've been scoring, how much money you spend, your average latency, and yeah, other information. Let me go to the registry. I really want you guys to see this, and that is, this is where we store our prompts, right? When you, what we use here is templates. So maybe this one, right? We're allowing you to store two types of templates. One is completion. That's, yeah, you know what that is. And the others are chat completions. And those are a bit of composed templates, right? So you're allowed to put input variables here. We detect those automatically, both if you're using Jinja or F-string. We allow both of them. And you will be able to maybe pull these from the registry using the SDK. filling in your input variables and running that. Or you maybe are using the playground, which we'll see in a minute, and you're allowed to fill those as well. You also have versions. This is nuts. This is really great. You're allowed to keep track of how your templates have been changing and what changes are those. You even have a little diff that is being done when you edit a prompt. Let me show you that. So yeah, some box is been annoying, but right. So this is your template edition page. You will be right. Maybe you want to do something like this, or you want to modify your parameters, right? You want to set up a different, you want to change how this template is being run, or you want to change the model. I don't know. You want to put up some specific metadata, right? Or you want to set up a functions. We are offering this to users. That's a bit of a simpler way to add functions. You can do this from here, which I really like. It's even in a recursive situation, you might need to put specific structures to your functions, and you can do that from here. But you also have, of course, JSON for it. When you're done doing that, you will click on update, see, we call this commit message. So, right, and you will see what's changed, just like you do on GitHub. So if you're familiar, then this is closer to that. So, right, you will be able to use folders to organize your templates. That's what's happening here. You're also allowed to move a template between folders, duplicate them maybe in this workspace or another workspace, or to branch out from a specific version and made a new template out of that version. A thing that I really like is labels. This is great. Labels is amazing. With a label, you're allowed to retrieve a template using a label. For example, prod. We see prod here, we see dev too. Maybe in your applications, you are using prompts, and you have this prompt that you always use in your application, and you want to keep that frozen, right? If someone is playing around in the registry, someone from your team, someone, I don't know, you want to reduce the noise that's happening there. Well, with a label, you're allowed to do that, because even if we put a new version here, the label will stay on version 7. So you will always get to have that. Even if you change it, for example, if I go here and do this, I will be moving my label. I will not be deleting and putting a new one. So you get zero downtime there. It's great. It's a great feature. So yeah, this is our registry. What's with the playground that you see here? Well, you can go to the playground directly, right? And just start something from scratch. But what most people do is whether they go from here, from the template to the playground, right? Maybe fill the variables yourself, or you can go from an existing request. Think of it as an evaluated template. Maybe you can go from here, and then you have it, right? Maybe you want to do a quick iteration over it, maybe try different parameters without modifying the template. You're allowed to do that here. Also put up functions, and when you run it, when you actually run the template, of course, you will get the request logs at the left. Right, so we have our request logs. At the homepage, you will see a bit of documentation. We've seen the registry, analytics. What's happening with the evaluate? And this is my favorite. Maybe you've seen GitHub GitHub Actions or GitLab CI/CD, right? To putting up pipelines for your code base. This is it for your prompt registry. This is how this allows you to trigger pipelines. This allows you to set up pipelines, and this allows you to do some other pipelining stuff. We'll see that. Right. So okay. So we have this template. That's AI answer. And we also have these other two columns, right? Okay, this is a pipeline that didn't run yet. This is like a blueprint, okay? This is picking from the dataset stock questions and answers. What's a dataset? A dataset is an Excel sheet or a CSV that you provide to this page, and each of the columns there will be variable names, and each row will be a variable value, right? Kind of simple. So you take that, you put that in your template, right? Each of those rows are being run to your template, and you get the output of that. Each of those is a specific run, right? So that's kind of answered. What's with the rack? Rack here is actually an API endpoint we're hitting. We call it rack because it's where we are keeping a vector database. If you are curious of why we call this investment body, well, that kind of explains it. We have a database with a bunch of investment information, stocks, assets, and we are trying to put up an LLM to analyze that, right? So, right, once we get the output of that, that's the fourth column, right? Once we get the output of that, we also do an evaluation. That's what this other template is doing. See, that's what's happening. Is one thing being evaluated, putting into another thing, being evaluated, putting into another thing, being evaluated. So what this offers you is, if you see here, we have Boolean value, right? Okay, so what this allows us to do is to, well, this is letting me go into the request that is executed. That's what the little cake is there for. But what this allows us to do is to do metrics scoring and to retrieve a score from each of these pipeline executions. So that's really useful, right? You get those from GitHub, and those are really useful too. You have the batches, and when you go to a repository that you like or are interested, you are able to see those batches and say, okay, this has, I don't know, 80% coverage from test coverage, or I don't know, something like that. This has all of its dependencies updated, or that kind of information. That's really useful. So we do that from here. And we do that using this Boolean column. This is really easy to set up, like it's incredibly easy. And yeah, so once you get that score, and I think that this is one of the last things that I'm going to show you guys, that is, you are allowed to run that pipeline that you've been set up from here. So if you modify a template, I don't know, maybe do something like this, right? Yeah, we go next. You're being allowed to set up a new run for your pipeline. You choose that one here, and once that's done, and if it has a column for evaluation, it will take that value and put it here. So from one place, that's the registry, you will be allowed to have all of the information you need to do all of these stages on prompt engineering. Whether that be in fine-tuning, you can do that from here, right? Maybe you're want your model to be really specific on which how it should behave. You will do that from here. And maybe you need more context for your application, right? Maybe you need your model to be more smart, to have more information or a specific data set to be allowed to the model. Well, you can do that from the evaluate page, putting up a new rack. If you are doing that from a Python notebook or a Jupyter notebook, it works. It's great. If you offer me that and the evaluate page of this, I've been using the evaluate page, to be honest. So yeah, that's what we do.
Awesome.
That's Promptlayer.
Thanks so much, Naheul. This is like a really amazing talk. Promptlayer seems like a really fabulous tool. Like I would honestly use it over like the evaluate pipeline and prompt notebooks. It just seems like a really useful generative AI tool, and I'm definitely going to give this a spin after kind of this call. So everybody, thanks for joining today. This was a really fabulous event where we kind of talked about some of the latest and greatest advancements in generative AI and LLMs. We had our kind of team give presentations in the private GPT product, the model inference product, and the data labeling product. We had 7 fabulous startup presentations from Upreach to Promptlayer to Structured to OpenAds. We really hope that everyone kind of stays in touch after this event. We want to build a community to make AI accessible. I'm going to once again put a link to, the Slack channel in the chat. That way, everyone has access. And yeah, let's keep in touch. Reach out if you need anything. My email is nvidra@anote.ai. And really, we thank you all for your time and really appreciate you guys being here. So till next time, thank you and wishing you all the best. Take care, y'all.